Hello, and welcome to Covert Castaway. I'm Holly.
Je suis Stéphane.
Join us as we share what we learn and how we're making the transition to liveaboard cruising. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Covert Castaway. We are excited to update you on a bunch of things that happened this past week that include another factory tour and the first big multi-hull show of the season. It's the first one, right? The first big one?
Maybe,
yeah. Here in Grande Motte.
Well, it's quite unique, this one, because it's a multi-hull only, so catamarans and few trimarans.
Yeah.
So
it was really cool. So we want to kind of catch you up on what we saw there and what we learned and are starting to explore. So, let's start with the second factory tour. We weren't so much interested because we'd already done one. And then, Matthew said, come on over, check it out.
Yeah, he was giving a tour to another potential customer. And
from the U.S. as well.
Yeah. And so we thought, well, why not?
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting because, the first time, and there were more people the first time, this one was a little bit more intimate. And, there is only so much you can grasp. And so the second time around, I felt really like, you're learning a little bit more, asking different questions.
Yeah.
So that was good. And that was interesting to meet a person going through the process that we went through. And obviously each one has their own personal way to maybe get to the same answer in this case, it seems. So it was interesting to hear what other boats he had looked at and sailed on and getting his input. And at the time, he was going to do, the afternoon, and the next day he was going to do a test trial on a 51 and on a 55. And since then, we've kept in touch. And sounds like...
he put his name down in a slot. He was waiting for his baby to be born any minute. I guess his wife was wanting him to get back on a plane quickly and not delay.
Yeah.
And... but I think he's waiting 5 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's more of a longer term. Longer term in the current market. You have to be okay.
But also he was looking...
But because their children is quite young, so it makes sense to wait a few years. So in their case, the delay or, it works out with the years needed for the kids to grow up a little bit. Although some people take young kids on boats, but I think it's another challenge. So that was kind of interesting to hear the thought process of another person, another couple going through this, and in this case, come to the same conclusion. So that was good.
Yeah, and then I hit French class. I started my French school, and in the mornings. Week. Yeah, and then we went to the boat show 3 days in the afternoon. And why don't you talk a little bit about the first day?
Yeah, first day pretty much focused on Outremer booth. And so we got to meet people that we're going to be working with, especially Eloi.
Who's our project manager. So he's the dedicated person to help us, technical project manager.
He's like technical sales. And then, we're going to work with him closely as we go through the process from now until basically handover. And so it's going to be a very key person for us.
Right. And the tranche is there's three kind of groups of decisions we have to make. So the first tranche of decisions has a lot to do with the boat layout, like whether we want 4 cabins or 3 cabins or whatever it is. And then basically the sail plan. And then weirdly, some like plumbing decisions, although I don't know what plumbing decision. I guess if you decide you wanted a dishwasher or a laundry machine or not, these are the kinds of decisions I think you need to make, as well as AC units and stuff.
Yeah, energy producers, energy consumption / electronics, the deck plan, the rig and sail plan, the plumbing, the layout, and the specifics in accommodation, including cabinets and lockers. And so in this case, it's all combined. And part of the reason is to start, or to have an earlier deadline for all these things, given the current state.
Supply chain.
Yeah. So Outre-mer wants to make sure they have enough time to order everything and making sure that those things arrive on time. So
because typically you can wait a little bit longer.
Typically there's three decision points. Yeah. So in this case, the first two are combined, which should be okay for us to. But obviously, that's one thing that we're going to start in and have the first meeting to really understand on both sides. On our side, we already know from our prior experience certain things that we want, like we want a 3 cabin, so that's an easy decision for us, not the 4 cabin version. But there are other things that are going to be very critical, especially the sale plan.
Yeah, the sale plan is really, especially as we get into what we did kind of the second day, but the sale plan decisions, I think, on this boat are, I think, going to be a little bit more involved. And
it seems like there is obviously no right and wrong answer. It's more, it comes down to these type of decisions are very personal. And every single person has
a different opinion.
And so you have to make sure when you get their opinion, it's good because you're getting some different data points to think about. But you need to make sure you understand, what boats they have, how they sailed it, where they sailed it. And so it's kind of like collecting information. And but we'll talk a little bit more about this. So anyway, we met with Eloi. We also met with Céline, who is responsible for marketing at Outre-mer. We met with Xavier, who is the president of Outre-mer. Obviously, we met with Mathieu. And we met with some other people from the Outre-mer booth. So everybody
was really nice. I think everybody who's selling boats at a boat show is nice, but you definitely feel like you're joining a family.
Yes.
And, we came back the next day. Everybody remembered our names. That was nice. They definitely, I felt like there was some things around the whole customer experience that were sort of hardwired into their DNA. You and I talked a little bit about this on the way back, that you just, they just are there or they're not there, and I felt like there's definitely that sense that every customer is important. It felt less like a factory and more like a family business, I guess. Maybe that's not the right way to put it.
I guess, there is a good vibe. And it's professional, but at the same time, it's friendly. Yeah. And that's cool. Because, you're
and authentic,
Yes.
So that was really cool. So we focused mostly on the first day, and we only had half days because I was in school and we had to go over there. But it was really great to meet everybody in person and put a face to a name for sure moving forward. And certainly if anybody's buying a boat, that would be a strong recommendation, is to try to meet people in person, even if you're getting your boat in Vietnam or if you're getting your boat in France or if you're getting your boat anywhere. I think it's pretty important.
And that's the major difference with what we went through before. You establish that relationship, but it's with a dealer. And then you have that,
in between. Yeah.
Here you're talking to the people who are really like hands-on, now going to be working with.
Exactly.
So it's just like, it's as direct as it can be. And those people are very
because you have to they have to look you in the eye later.
Yeah.
So so the second day was really interesting. And I have to say my mind was kind of blown. I was kind of, at the end of the day, I was like really tired. And although it could have been French class. So.
French class combined with the weather was not optimum, so a little rainy and cold. And by the end of the day, you were
I was out.
So, and a lot of talking, even though everybody was like speaking English and
everybody
good.
was, and or I would try to speak French and they'd be like, no, I can speak English. I'm like, no, I'm trying to practice French. But on the other side, I got the student discount, so that was cool.
You totally scored. Totally free entrance.
Free entrance into the boat show. Yeah. We didn't take the metro and the tram or whatever. That would have been free. Like I get discounts for movies, That's what we should do. Go see a French movie. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so the second day, we really focused on meeting some other important vendors. We had a long discussion around finances. So our goal was to kind of just explore what options did exist for financing. We didn't do that with the first boat we had. And we're still on the fence, but we definitely wanted to explore some options. So I think it was really good to understand that.
Yeah, and it's definitely takes a bit of time to understand how everything works because we're coming from one experience. That's our reference.
These were, just to be clear, these were like French options to do that since you're buying the boat in France, which are, depending on who you're buying your boat from and what relationships they have or whatever, they're kind of different setups. So this one was unique to France too.
And to European people,
right.
About leasing. So that was definitely very interesting to learn, and we're going to continue to explore.
Mm-hmm. And then we met with Poshan, which is always a great, I learn something new every time I talk to those guys. So Poshan is the group that does all of the electronics.
And they worked on our first boat in La Rochelle. They have offices in different locations in France. And so they're
big one in La Rochelle, yeah.
Yeah, and they're very specialized in all equip electronics and stuff like this. So they're very knowledgeable. So now we're working, and Outremer has a kind of a point of contact. So that would be also, it's great we met that person.
Who does all the same, and they have a guy who does all the same installs for Outremer too, I think. And so that was good. I think with Outremer you have the option between systems. It seems like everybody goes with BNG, and that is the standard system. We had Garmin before. So just trying to understand the differences. We talked a little bit about some of the newer things coming out, which I think the most interesting new thing was the...
Oh, now they have well, it's not through BNG, it was another brand, but it's
through Poshan, yeah.
Yeah, they sell obviously a lot of different brands. And but it was interesting to see that the old VHF radio that ours or Garmin had a little screen. It was like so tiny, it was hard to read.
We had no idea how to work the thing. We could switch between channels.
How many times you press turn?
Yeah.
Because you cannot read the screen, but now it's like smartphone.
Yeah, it looks like a smartphone
type VHF.
Yeah,
so it's like super sexy. Like I don't know if it's needed, but it's a good thing to know that people are trying to.
Here's the thing,
improve.
right? Like on our boat, we had the VHF, and it had like the little yellow screen or whatever.
Orange.
Was it orange or whatever? And sometimes it would ring, and we're like, "What's happening?" Like we never sat down to figure it out. We never read the instructions.
Somebody calls you on VHF, and you're trying to read the number.
And you're like, "What is this? Is it important?" Yeah. We have no idea. So
anyway, they're coming up with some new, improving technology. So that's cool to see. That's
much more intuitive, a bigger interface. The screen was larger, so that was really cool. Yeah,
and then nearby Poshan there was Adrena Software, so it's a navigation software, French company. It's they have obviously different options for the software, but it's being used at the competition level by a lot of the French sailors and stuff. So it was interesting to see how that works, the interface, how we will use it. Is it necessary? What other options are there? How well is it integrated with,
like
BNG?
How do you actually use it? And so, basically you plan on one thing and you import it to the other thing, and then I don't know.
We'll dive down. We'll do more podcast and we'll update our blog with more of those technical details as we keep gathering information. But
and hopefully we don't have to like hire someone like Deloitte to integrate some of this software into the book. It was like seriously not
we're going
intuitive.
the wrong route.
So that was really good. The conversation
we met with the people from Oscar, which is also this is like it's not new, but it's still very, very new technology using AI and night vision
and thermal
thermal vision, thermal cameras, and they have also low light cameras for the day, and so basically at a very simple level, I really think that technology, if it works as well as we've been explained, what we observe, well, first, it's going to happen, and there's no question. The same way we now have cameras in the cars when you reverse, for example.
You can see stuff.
Yeah, and you think it's a gadget beginning, but you realize when you rent a car that doesn't have it, and you're like, oh man, I wish there was a little camera. It's so helpful. So I think this is just a camera that is just all the way on top of the mast.
How big would you say it is? And again, we're talking about a company called Oscar. How big would you say the box is?
It weighs like less than a kilo, and comparing
like
to
8 inches or something like that.
To some kind of a box, like I don't know, like
half a shoebox, maybe something like
yeah,
this.
like half, even maybe less.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tiny. It's installed all the way on top of the mast, so that's awesome, and it works as long as you turn it on 24 hours a day, and it's really It's obviously you have radar, you have AIS, but that's it kind of complements these. So the AIS has a purpose. I mean, you can track boats that have AIS, and, a transponder, and you can see their speed, their directions, what type of boat they are. But a lot of small fishing boats don't have AIS, especially as you go into some countries. So those, you have radar, to detect land, to detect big ships that have like a radar reflector. To detect squalls, so that's good. But if you have like small fishing boats with no AIS,
that have no AIS, right?
If you have, if it's foggy, and then you need to be able to see better, or and then the angle also. So it basically will detect for anomalies, and it will try to match it to some kind of database to say, oh, this point matches, some kind of GPS coordinates, so there might be this. But in another case, it might be based on what the AI is saying. It might be like a small fishing boat, or it might be a person in the water.
Right. So it has algorithms that it's been learning from.
Like a neural network.
Yeah. So basically, it will cross-reference what it detects with other data sources to determine, oh, this is a buoy. This is a boat. This is a person, this is whatever. And
it will ring an alarm, so alert you. And it's kind of interesting because stories we've heard some people reading about is it will alert you before you can see it, because it's all the way on top of the mast. So obviously it's a much better angle
higher,
to see it far away. If it's foggy and stuff, like you can see better than the human eye. So suddenly it will alert you. You look, you don't see it, but at least obviously you slow down, you change course or something, and then suddenly things starts to be clear. And then with some of the stories we heard, it's like some people thought, oh, that was kind of like a toy, but then they sailed on a boat, and then this is really, really useful. It's like having a crew 24 hours a day.
Yeah. So let's talk about use cases. So what are you thinking for us?
For us, well, I think if you are. I would say even beyond that, but if you're short-handed, if you're going to do like passages, especially like along the coast, and it just seems to be a no-brainer to
as another layer. It's not to depend on.
No, it's not like you go to bed and you have a pair of eyes on top of the mast. It's just, one of us will be sleeping, the other one will be on watch, and you already have the radar and the IS, a lot of things, and you yourself to keep a watch. But you'll have that device that is going to give you an additional piece of information, and that complements the others. So we're definitely seriously looking at that.
It just definitely makes me feel like, again, another little layer, because you realize, you're paying attention. You can pay attention as good as you think you can pay attention, but having a second set of eyes, just in case, you're looking down for 30 seconds, or you're, maybe you're struggling with some other problem on the boat.
Yeah.
Be
distracted very
and you're
quickly.
Distracted very quickly, or someone's tired, or, there's a lot of things that could happen. So it's more just another backup.
And then especially also for boats that are moving at higher speeds, because now, you need...
It happens quickly.
If you can see further, you have more time to react. And so it seems like if it works as well as we've learned so far, definitely that's something we're going to be considering.
So if you haven't noticed, we're excited about the Oscar, which has nothing to do with the boat show, but
because
let's move
we'll
on.
do something more detailed
Yeah.
about this.
And then we spent a lot of time talking to Incident Sales and North Sales, two of the sailing companies, just about sail plan, sail setup. And it's just so fascinating. Even both of those people we talked to, these different companies, have different perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
So it was just,
and I'm sure within one company they might have different perspectives. So, but it's like you leave the conversation and you're like, oh yeah,
okay,
that makes
we
a
got
lot
it.
of sense. Yeah,
And then you go
it's
talk
like,
to the next person.
And then you're like,
it's out the window.
Reset.
Yeah.
You know? So like, this kind of process right now is just talking to as many people as possible. Get confused with too much information,
which is where we are,
and then try to really set your requirements, and then it was more kind of informal conversations.
Yeah, but
eventually you need like some of the charts, and then see with the polars like and stuff like this. So,
but talk just what are we're going to do a deeper podcast, obviously, and even probably a companion blog to talk about sail plan, but there's a few things that suddenly become important to decide, like the stay sail. Do we need one or not? And there's different philosophies on this. And, the self-tacking jib, we're like, oh yeah, we definitely want that. And then we talk to people and we're like, maybe we don't want that. So these are kind of the biggest decisions, right? Is there one more probably? Because these have to do with the base setup of the boat.
Yeah.
Not just a sail configuration, right? Or rigging.
Yeah. And that's definitely for the Outre-mer. It's like the two choices you have to make. One choice is you keep the self-tacking jib and then you go with the code 0, and then people raise some concerns if you need to furl that self-tacking jib, it loses its shape, and so
that's another thing. There's purists, they're all from Brittany, by the way.
So they were saying the French people, especially people from Brittany, you have to have that
perfect
sail for
trim,
that thing and that sail for that weather, and as soon as you furl it, it's no
the
good
wrong
anymore.
shape. Yeah.
So that's one camp. The other camp is you go with a stay sail and a Genoa. The first step is there's a huge price difference between the two. The stay sail option between the setup for the cross beam, the mast, and then the stay sail itself, and it's just you're adding complexity, and then you're adding price. So we're going to go through a lot of iterations to try.
I'm sure, and there's a lot of opinions, I'm sure, and if any of you have a stay sail and you have your advice,
no, we don't want.
Yeah, no.
No, I think what we concluded is, we want first to hear people from Outre-mer because they've had those conversations with so many owners. So that's the first major data point. Second, we want to sit down with, Incident Sales, North Sales, with some sail makers, who also leave.
Do I have to talk to those guys again? I feel like we talked to them for an hour and a half.
But we have to talk, not just talk on paper. And then we need to hear from other Outre-mer.
Who've been around.
Once we have all that information about the selection, then we need to hear from other people, especially it's going to be...
Sorry, there's a little bit of background noise. It's the street cleaner. The streets here are sparkling clean because they clean them all the time.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And then we'll be, I think our third step will be talking with current Outre-mer owners, especially the ones who are currently doing the around the world.
Right.
And they are now in French Polynesia, so they've gone 2 ocean crossings. And so it'll be quite interesting to the people who had to make that decision a year or two ago. Now, if they were in our positions, what would they do? So that's kind of what I'd say: Outre-mer sail makers, and then Outre-mer owners.
Yeah,
and then we'll make a decision after that.
Yeah, and we got a chance, just moving kind of to the third day. We did get a chance to meet up with Seth from the sailing family, who had an Outre-mer 51 Archer. And we chatted with him a little bit about sail plan, and he has a stay sail.
Yeah, obviously he was there to represent H&H, but he was a previous Outre-mer owner, and the guy is just
he loves talking about
he's talking about boats. We know that from watching videos, but he's very generous with his time.
Yeah, for sure.
As soon as
he was
we
super busy.
Talked a little bit to him, he was starting to give us some feedback
really
on what
advice.
he learned. And then, it's super nice. Wish like he was available.
I know. Wish he had like
drink.
2 more hours to talk about stuff because
we felt bad.
It felt like and we felt bad because, he had appointments, I'm sure, but super generous with his time. And I'm sure hopefully we'll be able to ask him for more advice as we go
Even
along.
in the end, he said, send me an email. I'll try to respond.
He's pretty busy.
I'm sure he's very busy.
Working for a living now. So, So what else did we do on the third day? We got a chance to look at some other boats, which was really interesting. Because up until that point, we were like all business. We were like, we need to like talk to our team. We need to talk to our vendors. And then the third day, we were like, okay, we should probably look at some boats.
Well, plus the third day was a sunny day.
Yeah, it was really nice.
So first, we're not trying to be judgmental, but we walked by.
What are you going to say?
The Fountain Peugeot, and now because your new reference is like the
thin
lines
hulls,
of the Ultramare.
Yeah.
Definitely the Fountain Peugeot. The
No, I was looking at a boat,
a little like
and I was like,
overweight.
oh my god, that's a huge boat. It's like so fat. And I looked at it, and it was the Sona 47. It was the boat we had, and I was like, what the heck is happening to my perspective?
And now that you've looked at those lines of like a boat that sails well, and then you look back at the Fountain Peugeot in the lagoon, you're like, oh yeah, now I understand.
You're kind of being judgy.
Well,
you're kind of being judgy.
But you what you do is natural. Now you reframe your mind, reset it to understand, the physics and stuff, and you're focusing on that. And when you look at other boats, you're like, oh no, that's not working. And you know why? Because
the boats are all beautiful. I mean, what I will say is there seems to be like a ton more boats.
Yes.
Like a ton more. And
but
all different
manufacturers.
More manufacturers. More types, like more sizes per manufacturer. So, maybe a 45, a 50, a 50. Like there's just more and more.
There is a range. There is boats that are fast and luxurious. There is boats that are like
completely
motor yachts. There is
expensive.
There's boats that want to be like all green. It's some that want to be like pure performance, really like stripped down.
Mm-hmm. That was what was that? The ORC?
The ORC, yeah. So it seems like, if you're looking, just make sure you go to like a boat show, like the Multihull boat show, because all the vendors, I assume, were there. And I was like shocked. Like I was shocked too. How many there were.
But, the thing I'll say about this boat show is it wasn't very crowded. I mean,
probably part of it is the weather played a role. Maybe like local people, like probably even on
Saturday,
Friday,
it wasn't bad.
People
Friday, I mean,
it was sunny. Yeah, but most of the boat manufacturers now require like
a reservation.
I mean, what we knew a reference was the Annapolis Boat Show. Now, it
was a free for all. Yeah,
it was so super crowded, but somehow it seemed like we could visit.
I don't know, but there were a lot of people on the boats at once, and I can appreciate why people would want to take reservations to visit the boats, because otherwise, how do they talk to everybody?
Yeah,
so it's some kind of qualification. So I get that, and it actually does make sense. But if you're like us and you just kind of want to see the boat, it's a bummer,
Yeah, because you
don't want to waste people's time, and you don't.
Yeah, and you feel bad because you say sorry, we're
already committed to a different boat. But I think worth mentioning, there are a couple worth mention. Obviously, the H&H was beautiful and amazing and way too expensive. The ORC was really cool, but really stripped down. I mean, you're in racing land at that point.
Yeah, if you go to the 57. It seems like, they probably look like they add more stuff.
Like
but the
so
50
expensive.
And the 42,
yeah.
I don't know the price. I don't look at prices.
Yeah.
But
you all heard it here.
Yeah. Well, at boat show, you cannot. You just dream.
Yeah, that's true.
But clearly, like, it's definitely like a further the range of like performance. Like, so it's a very minimalistic boat.
Minimalistic. That's a good way.
Yeah.
Spartan.
Yeah,
is another word probably. Worth mentioning is the Windaloo that we saw. I believe it was a 51, and this boat is the boat that I perceive to be the most sustainable, friendly, or moving in that direction, and marketing it that way. Like that's how they're trying to position the boat. So they're using electric motors, hydrogeneration, They have all kinds of sustainable materials. And I think the most interesting thing about the boat was the helm is actually inside the boat versus anywhere on the deck or outside.
Like a gunboat, but it was covered. Like
So imagine a normal salon of a catamaran, and the front half of the salon is all helm. So there's two wheels. There's the main with all of the lines and all of the equipment. But so it looks like a captain's deck. It looks like this is what it looks like. It's completely separate from the rest of the boat. You actually open a door, you go inside, and you're in kind of this captain's station. And then there's a little door that you open to access, I guess, the base
to
of
go forward on the bow.
Yeah, and to go forward. And so, that was just really different, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely pushing and all, I think, boat manufacturers are trying to, they know that's moving in that direction in some way, shape, or form, are trying to find their niche. But they're definitely looking just at the marketing materials. We don't know the details.
Yeah, it was interesting. It seemed to have a lot of interesting things to explore if that were kind of a path you were going to go down.
And it's good for the overall boating industry. Move in that direction.
And then we had mixed feelings. We had a difference of opinion about the balance as well. There were a lot of things about the balance that I liked.
When we were looking at our different options.
We walked on to it.
No, but we were talking about the balance as we were talking about Outremer back last year when we were making
but we had never seen one. And so this is the first time to see one. So I really liked the helm setup where the wheel goes up and down. I liked
like the 55,
Yeah. And then all of the lines kind of come into that one spot. I liked how that was set up. And then there was some design elements I really liked about the balance as well.
And some that
you didn't like at all.
Which is like semi-custom, so
I would be sitting here like looking at something like, God, this is really clever and cool, and you'd be like, oh my God, that's so stupid.
No, not like this, but the owner's version, what is the cabin usually at the back of the boat is this humongous bathroom, and it didn't make any sense. It's like, to me, it was like.
Well, I mean, I think what made sense about it is like the engine's under there, I guess. So it makes noise in the bathroom, not in the main bedroom. Like I'm sure there was some like thoughts put to it.
It looks like it doesn't make any sense.
It's really big.
It's not even
huge
cozy.
shower.
Like our shower in the Fountain Peugeot, like was at least long and narrow, but at least you feel a bit of coziness to it. Like even if it's a glass, but here was like a big square shape. And
like a spa. It was interesting.
If it was a hot tub, sure, fill it up and then enjoy the time.
So this is how couples choose boats. But anyway, I thought it had some interesting things to offer. Stefan felt otherwise. So there you go.
Some of the design characteristics that I think when you're on the performance spectrum, there are some fundamentals like physics, and I think everybody is trying to move a little bit. A lot of boat manufacturers to move to be a performance boat, but at the same time make other decisions.
Yeah,
and
it definitely feels like there's a really good sense of competition between these boat builders, whether they're production boats or performance boats. Like, I just feel like since the last time we went to a boat show, which was pre-COVID, right? And then there weren't boat shows.
4 years ago or something.
And then there weren't boat shows for a while, right? It just seems like there's healthy competition. Everybody's starting to understand there's different subsegments of the market. It's not just one thing for everybody. And trying to fill, everybody's sort of looking for their niche to fill and competing, I think, which is, only benefits the buyers. So I thought that was really cool. And then we had a chance to meet up with some owners. And one of the couples just got their 55 3 days ago, I guess, handed over. And so they invited us back to their boat to look at what they called was the bazaar of trying to pack the boat with all of their stuff. And they were moving from a Jeanneau monohull 57, yeah, into a 55.
Outremer 55, yeah.
And I was just floored how much space there was.
It's just such a beautiful.
Yeah, it's very big. So yeah, it was really cool though to see. It was really cool to be in the middle of their excitement, when they got it.
And visualizing, because you're like, the boat comes out of the factory when they hand it over to you, like it's basically it's all done. There is no commissioning like we had before. But then you realize, it still takes time to put your stuff away. Even if you think like we've become somehow minimalist, there is still a lot of stuff to put away, nowhere to put it.
And these guys admittedly were not minimalist. She was like, no, I have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And a 57-foot monohull is still a big boat.
Oh, yeah. So that was Stefan and Beatrice. And then we met Barbara and Uli from Germany, who went to the factory, saw their boat being built, and they're going to come back a few times between now and the time they get the boat.
I think the boat goes in the water in May.
I forgot exactly, but they're going to come back when they do the deck, close the deck, and then do a little ceremony, and then when the boat gets put in the water, and obviously when the keys are being handed over to them. So
was cool.
Made new friends, and it's fun because we're going to be around, and everybody's going to gravitate around La Grande Motte over the next few months. So looking forward to meeting even more owners at Outremer Week sometime in May. And it's
and definitely, I definitely, it was really good timing with the boat show. So I think biggest takeaways were, if you can attend a boat show, it might be worth picking some random catamaran boat show that's out of the way, just because you can get on more boats, you can talk to more people, you can have longer conversations than in a busy boat show. That's kind of, that was how I felt. I was like, wow, this is the one to come to, because it's smaller and you can really have deeper conversations.
Yeah.
I think the second thing is no matter where you get your boat, if you're getting a new boat, it's really good to meet people face to face, especially at the actual boat manufacturer, and look people in the eye and build the relationships. In the U.S., I think less so than in France, certainly, and other countries around the world. I think the relationships matter. Not that they don't matter anywhere else. It just seems like, having gone through what we went through, even with Fountain Pajot, it's really important to have good relationships on the dock there with, the people actually working on the boat and interacting. So, if you are buying your boat from another country, it just becomes all the more important.
Yeah, and I don't know if other boat manufacturers were doing it or not, but definitely Outremer was taking people on the water as well.
Oh, yeah. You can.
So, because again, be careful of going to a boat show and looking at boats and just looking
they're beautiful on the dock.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then sailing them and really get the full experience and talking to the previous owners of those boats. And so that's very valuable.
And it seemed like a lot of the boat companies were doing that throughout the day. I saw a lot of different boats go out.
Really?
Yeah. So I think that was really good. I don't know if they do that in Annapolis or not. Some
after
maybe.
the boat show, I
think
they do.
Yeah.
Maybe,
yeah, because there's so many boats there too. Yeah. So that was our week, and I catch a flight back to the States for business for a week, and then I'll be back. So
party time for me. So my sister, my nephew, my niece are coming in town for a week. So I guess to do a bit of a family extended family from brother sister time, and then I'm definitely going to take some time to do some research on the kiteboarding equipment, because that's part of the goal for this year, and then keep doing some research on all the things that the conversations we started, and writing things down to gather my thoughts.
I definitely think we need to double click on the sale plan and some of the decisions in more detail in an upcoming episode, among other things. But I think that's a big one. So thanks so much for listening. If you have topics we want to cover or specific questions, again, you can reach us at sailingawen.com. And
if you're coming to the Outremer Week in May. Let us know if you're coming on vacation
in France,
in South France, the Montpellier, La Grande Motte, Toulouse,
or anywhere we can
side.
take a train because I have a student discount.
Oh, yes. Then let us know.
Let us know. That's it for now.
Bon vent.
Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, like, or share with another Covert Castaway. Fair winds for now.